Okay. So we are very honored and very lucky and very happy that we have with us tonight one of the most famous photojournalists, Nikos Pilos, who has traveled the world and been by any kind of event that we have found interesting, sad, difficult, any catastrophe you can imagine, almost, Nikos Pilos has been there. And he has gotten very, very many awards for it. So he will talk to us about his work, he will talk to us about the Greek financial crisis, the refugee crisis, all kinds of other crises that he's been in. I've sent you his, or in any case, if I haven't, I will, no I have, but I will send you again his website so you can see more things about him later. But right now we will be extremely happy to see some of his work, and who has been really awarded awards from everywhere. He has published his work in every magazine and newspaper in the world you can imagine. He shares his time between Athens and Belgrade. He travels all over the world, obviously. But really, there are no big incidents in the world that he hasn't covered. So help me thank him for being here today. He will show us his work, and then you have time to ask questions. Okay? Good. Yes, please do begin.
Thank you very much. If I do some mistakes, forgive me, I'm not a native speaker. So it's the third time that I have the chance to present my work in U.S. students. The first time and the second was in Columbia University, and now it's your turn. So I don't want to talk anymore. I think it's better to see things and then discuss about them. We will start with a small doc. The name is Dying for Europe, where describe the Balkan road, the Balkan immigration road. Okay, it's a black and white, and it's 70 minutes long. Photo. Okay, that was the first. That was the first of the three stories that we will see today. I would like to hear your comments, your questions. That's why I'm here. Are you shocked?
Speak up. Shocked or not, we always have language. We have to be able to express ourselves about this. Yes.
How are you able to film without just wanting to help people? Like, how do you maintain your work without just getting everything up to help these people? Or do people ask you for help when you're filming them?
Okay, I have to clear something about that. Okay, my work is photojournalist. It means that my duty is to transfer the news, to transfer the situation. And because I transfer and I publish the situation that I saw, that's why people came and helped the people, the refugees in the specific way. Of course, if it's necessary, it's nobody else there to help, yes, I do it.
There is no more help than this.
Yeah. No, that wasn't my question. My question was like, is it hard to
If you ask me for the specific thing, it's one of the most easiest situations that I have faced. Because basically at the first part, as you see, the documentary was divided in three parts. Okay, we have the first part where the borders was open. So it was a little bit of stress and a little bit of pressure, some small riots, but generally the refugees and the immigrants, it was easy for them to pass the borders. So the first part was very, very easy situation compared with other situation of refugees and immigrants. At the second part, it was something that all we discussed it, everybody knows it, that people die, try to pass, but nobody wants to talk about it. For example, Frontex, who is the responsible, let's say, police for the borders, for the European borders, doesn't calculate the people who will die. So basically, we don't need. IOM try to calculate how they are, goes to the cemeteries and to the authorities in every country where the people pass and die or die. The third part, it's the worst part. And it's the worst part because it's the time that the 12th fence in Europe was built. So if you know the European history, the Europeans fight for more than 70 decades to destroy, to demolition the walls where separate Europe. And you know the major event of Berlin Wall at 30 years this year. We celebrate the 30 years this year. So after that, the last 5 years, 6 years, we saw at least 12 new fences built in all around Europe. That means that we go at least 30 years back. Yes, it's very easy question. I do it because it was different color situation, different light situations. For example, you have morning light, afternoon light, night light. So it was very difficult to combine the colors. I didn't do it because I want to show it more dramatic. It is dramatic also in color. Okay. So the first part starts from the Greek islands, Lesbos. Then there is in Athens, there is in Idomeni and Yevgeli, Idomeni in Greece part, Yevgelia in North Macedonia, and then Serbia, and then Hungary. That was the end of the trip. The second part, it is in island of Chios, which is very close to the Turkish coast, where the accident was happened. And the third part is in between Greek and North Macedonian borders during of the construction of the wall. Yes.
Did you have to get special government permission to film these things?
No, I didn't took any permission. Of course, I took permission from the people I shoot. I filming because always I ask permission, not at the beginning, but at the end. Okay, I will also explain why I ask in the end. Because if you are talking to someone before you take a picture of him, before you shoot him, then start looking you. So you cannot take a real picture. So the procedure, even that I have the right, because it's news. So by the law, when it's news, you have the right to shoot without ask. Okay, because it's something that it's very interesting for the public. It's have to do with the public. But always I ask permission after. Yes.
When you're filming these things and you're in all these areas of all this going on, have you ever actually been put in serious danger because of that?
I don't hear you well, but if I understand your question, I filmed it in the period of 8 months from...
If you're in danger.
No, this was very soft. It was not dangerous to the press people.
But you mean in other situations you're asking?
If you've ever gone somewhere and filmed, but it was a bad situation and it ended up put you in danger.
If there are other situations, όχι μόνο εδώ, other situations where you put yourself in danger.
Okay. My career was started a little bit in a crazy way. It was 1988. I was in Lebanon, in the civil war in Lebanon. And I had a fixer where 10 out of a corner and a sniper shoot him in the head. So this is the first incident in my career, and I think it was that make me to continue. I had a lot of incidents. For example, when I was in Gaza Strip, and I had a driver and fixer. You know what is fixer? It's the guy who arranges the appointment and all these kind of things. It was both without papers, because in Gaza Strip there's thousands of people without papers because there are refugees from North Israel. So the Palestinian Authority doesn't calculate it as a Palestinian citizens. And out of Han Yunis, an Israeli tank stop us. They take us out of the car, and they want to take as a prisoner to arrest the Palestinian people where they haven't papers. So I fight very much with the Israeli army, and finally I save my fixer and driver. So that's a small incident. Generally, there is a rules when you are working in conflict areas or in war zones, and there are very strict rules. You must follow them, otherwise you die. I have a very close friend of mine, Hondros. You know him probably because he's an American photographer. He calls me before go to Misrata. I tell him don't go because there is no front line. So it's very easy to be trapped. And he died in Misrata because of that. He didn't want to follow the rules. That's a very good question. So when I was, the emigration crisis started, I was in Lesbos. In Lesbos, it was more than 100, let's say, NGOs. Most of them, they didn't do nothing. Just they earn money and volunteers from abroad. But as you see at the beginning of the documentary, the refugees arrive in plastic boats. So you have 80 NGOs there, where just give water and help the refugees to come out of the boats and the sea at the end of the trip. So you cannot die in 20 centimeters water. I mean, it's impossible. And at the same time, they didn't do anything and allow to the refugees to walk 35 kilometers by foot, walking, in order to be from the North Lesbos to Mytilene city. I say that because I have been in a lot of places that you can see NGOs and humanitarian organizations to help the people. But I will give you a number. For every refugee in Greece, there is 1,500 euros per month. That's the money that European Union sent for the refugees. Do you know how much money finally the refugees earn? 350 euros max. Where the rest of the money goes? This is the question that you have to check and try to find where the money goes. This is a tip for the journalists and the people who want to following the journalism. So it's, of course, it's some organizations were really, really good. For example, Caritas, the Catholic organization, the Doctors Without Borders, the Doctors of the World in many cases. But generally, there is a big, big problem with the NGOs because they spend the money not for the reason that they receive them. Yes?
So what are some ways that we
can help? Maybe as individuals can do something about this.
I think the only way is to protest for the rights of the refugees, to organize movement in your country in order to support them. And I think this is the real political and correct way to support the people who are in danger, the poor people or the people who are needed. I mean, I believe that we need strong political human movements to demonstrate, to be active, and to inform the governments that they have another opinion. So they can change the public opinion or reconstruct it. Yes?
There are a lot of board photographs that are really powerful and startling, like the boy on the beach, for example. But it seems that there is this instance where people move on from those moments and become desensitized to what they see. Is there any way that you think about this desensitization, or does it affect the work in any way?
Okay, just a minute, because sorry,
I didn't get it.
I had left 35 and 25% of my...
No, say it again, please, because I did not get what you mean either.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay, no, I did not get it either, so super check.
I feel like there are a lot of really powerful photographs that people are startled by and bring attention to the movements that you're taking pictures of. But there's always this moment where people move on and become desensitized to what they're seeing. Is there any way that you think about this desensitization, and does it affect your work?
In general, you mean? In general, or about his pictures?
Well, I mean, I don't know what photojournalism, I guess.
Sorry.
Λέω ότι προφανώς κάποιες εικόνες πάρα πολύ βοηθάνε και κάνουν τον κόσμο να συνεχίσει αυτό που συμβαίνει, αλλά μετά υπάρχει ένα σημείο που και μετά ο κόσμος βλέπει τις εικόνες, αλλά δεν έχει πρέπει να ευαισθητοποιήσει ποτέ στην αρχή. Σε απασχολεί αυτό σε σχέση με τη δουλειά σου, ότι κάποιες εικόνες...
Yes, there is problem. I agree with you. The problem, I think, starts of the media. And the problem with the media is that after 90s, there's no anymore traditional publishers. The media belongs to businessmen. So the agenda has been changed. And I think this is the biggest problem now about media. There's no credibility. There's no correct the way that they use the news. They use the news. And I don't know how this problem can be solved. I think we cannot solve it. There is a new way of journalism. I will show you a small thing after. It's my latest work. You can make platform, you can use the social media, you can use internet. But I think it's very, very difficult now to change the road of the media, to change the destiny, let's say. Yes. You live with that, you know. The only thing that you can do is to protect your pictures. For example, for me, because I'm freelancer, I can choose in which magazine will publish my pictures, under which text I publish my picture, so I can save my credibility. But for the people, for example, for the photographers that working for the big agencies like AP, Reuters, Getty, etc., there's no chance. They cannot have any right on their pictures, they don't have any opinion, and they cannot complain even if they publish after down of the worst text. Yes.
I think whenever we're talking about the refugee crisis, at least us, we're holding ourselves to a very high ethical standard. But what do you think? How governments can address this to the common people, the common person, working man, more practically, who might think that the incoming refugees might steal their job, might
I think this is a big lie. So there is a problem, yes. I think the problem has to do with the economy system. What I mean? We are in an era that the majority of the Western people, they have this new liberalism system. If you're following the history of the new liberalism, you will see that started from Chile during the Pinochet junta, and after that in England, in Thatcher's period. So it's a system that based in fear. What the system do? They terrified the citizens, so the citizens became more and more conservative. You cannot defend the system because also the media, as we say before, every day they talk about the fear. So I think the only way is again to try to find ways to be informed, not for the mainstream media, and to be active as a citizen in order to defend all the speculations. There's no, for example, in Greece now we have around 70,000 refugees in the camps and in the islands. And there is a very big debate that the culture was going to be conquested and we're going to lose our religious, the way that we live, which is a big lie. I mean, they live in the camps, far away from the other society. They never, it's in the margin. So no one of them affect the real life of the Greek people. The same thing happened also to the other European countries, as I know very well. I don't know in the United States, but in Europe I think there is no any dangers from these people. And from the other side, we must think that these people, they left their countries not because they wanted, but because there was war, conflicts, and also for financial reasons. But the financial reasons depends 100% of the Western companies where are in their countries and they steal the treasure. Look, Nigeria, for example. Nigeria is the 5th producer petrol country in the world. Do you know how much is the daily salary? 20 cents. How can be a country who is the 5th producer oil all around the world to have 0.20 cents salary? Yes.
Do you think there's a way to elevate, migrant narratives over, the violent rhetoric of right-wing politicians that are, rising to power increasingly, not only in Europe, but all around the world?
Oh, I didn't hear you either, so please speak up.
Do you think there's a way to elevate, migrant narratives of real people over the rhetoric of, right-wing politicians that's being used, all over the world?
Yeah, if there is if I throw in your evaluation for years con los libros de la reforma, las cuestiones teorías que se tengan empática que son να ακουστούν αυτές οι θεωρίες.
There are some media were published, but generally I think they have not a chance. It's very, very difficult. I mean, I saw my part of the work. In 2015, it was all the media was crazy about the refugees. 1 year after, nobody was interested. You know.
How have the accolades you've received influenced the projects you choose to take on?
Πώς επηρέασε το project μου γενικά.
Αυτά τα βραβεία που έχεις πάρει, αν σου κατευθύνουν κάποια τιμωρία της επόμενης δουλειάς σου.
No. Direct. Okay, it's good, and I'm very proud for them, for the awards. But when I do something, I do it because I believe it, not for the awards. That was my path, and that is my path.
I guess To specify, do you feel that with the awards that you've garnered, you're allowed to take on bigger projects, or you feel that, do you find yourself moving towards bigger projects, bigger issues, rather than your small section that maybe you started with, or maybe you did start with covering big issues in photojournalism?
I will tell you, I started cover big issues when I was very young.
Okay.
So the situation was totally different than it is now. It's true that the awards helps a little bit because you became kind of famous guy, so it's easier to find financial support. But generally, this is my path. I choose the stories because I believe that must be told.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on how you got started really young?
Θέλεις να πεις λίγο παραπάνω πώς ξεκίνησες τα πρώτα
Yes.
έργα που έκανες?
Okay, I study. My plan was to study innovation. That's my dream. And when I was finished the high school, I would try to go to Bulgaria in Varna, who was the second biggest university of restoration. But the money was not enough. It was something like 1 million drachmas this period, something like 40,000 euros, dollars, this, yes, per year. So I studied graphic designer in Greece. It was 5 years of study, but it was old-fashioned work. So you work by your hand, you did batik, linoleum, there was photography, developing film, repromaster, all this kind of stuff. And at the same time, I started working as a graphic designer in a small newspaper. But I didn't. The job was very creative, but I didn't like the shifts. The shifts was night shifts always. You start working at 8 o'clock in the night, you finish 5 o'clock in the morning, and 4 o'clock in the morning you went for a drink, and then to eat something, and then you go to sleep. Do the same thing with the same people every day. So, because it was a period, it was an era that the media grow up. It was easy for me to jump from the graphic designing department to the photo department. And somehow I started. My first assignment was a suicide. Yes, it was night shift in newspaper. Have you seen The Public Eye? Joe Pesci is the protagonist. Huh? Is anybody have seen this movie, The Public Eye? So, we have a scanner that we hear the police radio in the newspaper. So many times we arrived at the spot before the police. Yeah, there was not human rights. There was not personal data. It was very easy. No laws. I don't know if it's good or bad. And that was my first assignment. I remember it until now. It was a guy on a chair like this, and a lake of blood under his feet. I had faced some problems, yes. It's true, but okay, when you are working as a photojournalist, you must take some decisions. For example, I don't do commercials. Okay, I'm living just from publications. That gives me the strength to be dependent and, you know. But yes, I have many problems with oligarchs in Greece. I have problems with the police sometimes. I have some media that they block me because of my opinions, but I'm still here. I'm standing. Yes.
How do the migrants make their way north with like little or no money?
At the beginning, it was very easy, because the only money they had to pay was between Turkey and Greece. That means something like 1,000 euros per person. After that, when the borders was open, it was easy to move, just they pay the tickets from the buses, the trains, and all this kind of stuff. And of course, they walk a lot. When the borders was closed, shut it down, they move only via smugglers. For example, let's say a fake passport in order to leave Greece, it started from 800 euros until 2,500 euros. It depends the quality. If you want to travel by boat or by boat or by plane. If you want to travel via mountains, you have to pay the smuggler. It's around 2,500 euros from the Greek mountains past to Albania and then to the Adriatic, to Italy, by boat. So it's very, it's okay, the money, where they found the money? Okay, basically we have to say that different social classes. Okay, for example, the first Syrian that they left Syria, it was the rich people. It was obviously, they have money to stay in hotels, they have money to move, they have money to eat. The last wave, it was the poor people. The poor people, basically, they sell everything they have in a very cheap prices in order to find the money. That's the way. It's the way. So they have nothing to lose. They sell everything they have in their country. Sometimes in cases like Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, they sell slaves to their family, to the smugglers, and the family work for the smugglers until they go to the final destination they want to go, and then they start pay the smuggler. It's a different ways.
Is there a lot of corruption in the European countries in regards to smuggling, or is it something that the European nations are trying to crack down on heavily?
I think smuggling coming after the decision that the European Union takes. I mean, when there was the border open, the border was open, there was no smuggling. Now that the borders are closed, there is smuggling. I mean, if you want to solve the problem, what you have to do? First, you must invest in the countries that are the poor countries. United States did it after the Second War. They rebuilt Europe, the Marshall's Plan. Correct? So, the Europeans, the Western countries, let's say, they don't support the poorest country where they have profit of them. They take just the money and leave. So, if we want to stop this kind of immigration, we have to invest in the countries where now cheat, stole the resources. Okay, so if the salaries go up, the people, they have not reason to leave. For example, from Greece, during the last crisis, around 500 youngsters, high-educated people, left the country. And now they are in Germany, in Switzerland, in France. So the second thing is the wars. You must show who has profit from the war. If you answer this question, who has profit from the war, then you know what exactly happened. You want to talk about the Greek crisis? Was okay? It's something? Yes.
I just have a question about your work. How do you negotiate your desire to inform with the kind of shock value or potential exploitativeness that comes with photographing people who are suffering? I mean, like, I guess, is there an equivalent Hippocratic oath that you hold yourself to when out doing this work?
PTSD. It's true. I mean, for me, it was very difficult. When you're working in the war zones, when you cover war zone conflict areas, you stay 2, 3, 4 months, and then you're back. You are safe. You reconnect with your people. Okay, it takes time, but you reconnect. You return to your normal life. With the Greek crisis, it was extremely difficult and depressing thing. Why? Because first of all, members of my family was affected. For example, my father, he lost 35% of his pension. My brother was 3 years unemployed. The majority of the friends were in my age. They lost their work, their jobs, and they returned to live with their parents. You know, back to the home, to the children's room. It's a little bit stressful. And then you understand the language. When you understand the language, you have the full feeling of what the people, And then you feel responsible. You know, in Greece, to be poor is not a sin. But when you see poor people around you, you must. This is the behavior, the way that the Greeks understand the world. You have to help them. So it's still many people that until now I visit them once per month, and they carry some food or, some money. It was very, very stressful. Yes.
Do you ever worry that photographing the golden door gives them more power?
Αν φωτογραφίζοντας την Χρυσή Αυγή, τους δίνεις περισσότερη εξουσία, περισσότερη...
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because when you photograph them and you saw how they act, and also the salute, people understand what they are, because at the beginning when they appear, the people, they didn't understand what they are. I mean, it was a little bit confused. They think that just they're nationalists, they love the country, this kind of stuff, and they was trapped. But because of the publicity, now from 7% that there was, it's 0.5, the percentage that they take. From 7%, 0.5. So it's good.
Like, for a lot of your photos you took during the riots, you have photos behind riot shields and in front of riot shields. Like, what is it like threading that needle, like, and being on one side and being on the other during such an event? And how many cameras did you lose, and who paid for them?
I will tell you. I have been here 3 times in my career. I started in 1986. I started my career. I have traveled in many wars. I have been here 3 times in Greece. 2 times by the police, 1 time by the anarchists. So it's a kind of game. I mean, because everybody wants to beat you. So you must build a relationship. Yeah, that's true. Okay, the police is more violent than the anarchists against us. Yes. It's not the normal thing, I know. It's a kind of game. I have a friend working for AFP, the press agency. She went in a training in France because the agency was to train about the conflicts and the riots. So it was a training that the fire police, they play the role of the anarchist. So they start throw tear gases, etc. All the others of the group was the tear mask and helmets. Luisa was without nothing, shooting and laughing. Okay, let's explain why that happened. Okay, in Greece was, let's say, protectorate for a lot of years. Okay, the big powers always, they decide about the future of the country. We have many dictatorships before the Second War and after the Second War. After the Second War also the country has a civil war. So the society was totally divided with between the right-wing people and the left-wing people. Also, for many decades, all the laws that the Greek parliament tried to vote, it has to take the permission of the American Embassy of Greece. It's another fact, I'm sorry. So, in all these years, there's a lot of problems with the political rights, with the human rights. It was very difficult for the people to express themselves. If you was not right-wing, then you was totally in the margin. You couldn't find work, you couldn't take a passport, you couldn't travel, you go to exile. There's 1 million political refugees outside of Greece, and from 40s to 70s, more than 400,000 people that was in exile in the jail, tortured, etc. So that's make the Greeks the most political country in Europe. I mean, if you see the percentage of the people that they vote is more than 70%, which is a very big percentage. And that's why it's this mentality.
Have you ever taken the perspective of a child, like asking them like what they think about like what's going on, like what they're feeling?
And
of a
they're
child.
feeling when
Like-
they are
like when they're-
the children in refugees or the children. Αν είδες ποτέ αν πήρε ποτέ τη θέση ενός παιδιού, αν τους ρώτησες τι αισθάνονται κλπ.
Of course. I talk with them. I spend more time to talk with them than to photograph them. And I'm very interested for all the cases that I meet and I saw. That's the way I'm working. I do feature stories basically, so that means that I have to spend time with the people. And I think I think also this is the most important thing, and it's my profit of my work. So I understand the other cultures, I try to understand the people, why they active in this way or in the other. I can understand the political and the social situation in the places that I'm going. That's why I don't stay in hotels, I stay in houses, and that's why I don't go just for 10 or 15 days, but I spend more. The minimum it's 2 months, so it's 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, it depends the case. I'm very, very interesting. I want to understand. Yes?
I have a question about how you, as a freelancer, manage these long periods in these places, because this is expensive. But, so are you paid when you pitch a job before it happens, or are you paid for the photos at the end?
It's 3 ways. The first way is that you have your budget and you go. As I said before, I don't stay in the luxury hotels. I prefer the houses, small houses. I like to be in contact with the people. So from this side, it's not so expensive as expensive it is for, let's say, for a staffer photographer, for a photographer who want to stay in the hotels. The big expensive, the big money the big amount of money that you need is for the fixer. That has to do, it depends, the amount of money that he asks depends of the country and of the deal that you will do with him. For example, when I was in Iraq, 2004 and 5, I pay something like 50 euros per day to my fixer, when the price is for the fixers was 350 euros. But I will stay 110 days, and the most of the people, they stay 10 days. So the profit was bigger, and the salary this period in Iraq was $18 per month. So, so this is the first way. The second way is to have an assignment, so someone pay for you. And the third way, it's, let's say, sometimes you share the expenses with someone else, or you have a grant, or you have, something like that. I prefer basically with my money. Why? Because it keeps me independent. Then I decide what I want to do. Yes.
Yeah.
Ladies first, always.
Who are some photographers that have greatly inspired you?
What?
Who are some photographers that have greatly inspired you?
Okay. Robert Capa, it's my favorite one. And from the new generation, Paolo Pellegrin. You know Paolo Pellegrin? It's Italian photographer of the Magnum agency. He's very good. Of course, I like lot more photographers, but that was my, one old-fashioned and one in my generation.
Just related to talking with children, what I've learned in journalism courses so far, we're supposed to, at least for writing, avoid using their words. So when you try to talk to children for photographs, is it more about an emotional connection, and do you use their words in captions?
It depends. It depends. It depends what I want to describe. Generally, I follow in the caption the general rule, the 5 words, you know them. Because I don't want to. I prefer to put the people to think about. You cannot do it when you try with emotion in an emotional way, because the emotional way is temporary thing. But when you just present the facts, you have a better chance.
I'm thinking about the children in the hospital. Is there any, do they become available for adoption, or they don't do it, or not, just trying to understand.
Yes, the law changed, I think, and became easier, I think, in 2015. 2015? No, 2000 and the last government, at least, changed it, yes. It was very strict before. It was almost impossible to adopt. Yes, you have to wait 15 years. Yeah.
The last government, together with others,
So we'll go to the next step. Yeah. Okay. So we'll go by website. It's something that I present for the first time. It's not published. It's not online yet. Okay. So that's the. That was the end. If you have any questions, I'm here too. Then tell me your expression about your feelings about the last. It's the first projection. Did you understand anything? Yes, no, maybe? Yes. They start evacuate the squattings. They start close them. There was fighting between the anarchists and the political activists with the police. And until now, I think 10, 15 squattings, they shut it down. Yes, we're in the middle.
A mix of them, of the new government getting into them and evacuating people. It's happening all over right now.
This particular one is a large one, was also a refugee place in the past, right?
Yes, that's the interesting thing. These buildings was built on 30s in order to settle the refugees, the Greek refugees of Minus Asia. So around in 2000, maybe a little bit earlier, the state was decided to rebuy the buildings and demolition them. So 5 or 10 of the old owners, where they don't return their houses to the state, they go to the High Court, and the High Court decide that they cannot be demolition because it's a Bauhaus, the only one Bauhaus construction in Athens, and also it's a historical spot because it was a field of battles during the Civil War. So if you see the bullets from the Civil War on the walls. So after that, around the beginning of 2000, 2004, 5. Poor people, illegal people, junkies, dealers, they start squatting the buildings. But around 2009, 8, 9, an anarchist ensemble was start squatting apartments, and finally they kick out all the smugglers, the drug dealers, the people who had squatting the houses, and then they rented to the poorest people for money. And now we have a squat of more than 500 people where live like as you saw before. I think it's the biggest one in Europe, and at least it's the biggest one with these conditions. Means you have squattings also in Germany, but the people, they pay rental to someone, you know? Okay.
And it's in the heart of Athens, on one of the main avenues of Athens.
Yeah. Between the High Court and the headquarters of the police.
Yes. Totally sandwiched between the two. Yeah. So say some things. What did you think?
Please, I need it. You're my first audience of a small documentary, so I have to hear something. Are you bombed?
Yes.
It was good.
You will be my client. I will give you a bribe later on.
I do not take plastic.
Say.
It was really good, very powerful. I approve. I really liked it.
Thank you.
I do not take plastic.
What?
I do not take plastic bribes.
Thinking about the bribe.
Okay. Yes.
What I thought was really powerful was in the beginning, like you can really see how much this building means to these people and how much it helps them. And it was really heartwarming to see like the neighbors like helping them out and giving them food, and just like everyone like helping each other. That was really heartwarming. And then all of a sudden, like you see the government like kind of shoot it down. And that justification, I think, is like the most powerful. But also makes the government look really, really shitty because everyone else is like a good person and helping them out.
Believe the most important for this community is they live without money. And this is very important. We saw a small society, a small part of the society that survive without money. This is very weird, isn't it?
And you should go to the market, to the green market, and at the very end of it, when people really are going, and they're getting from them different fruits and vegetables and things like that.
Okay. Okay. The blonde one.
The part that I found the most moving was when you chose to show people's faces versus showing silhouettes or reflections in mirrors or shadows. I thought that was really interesting.
Τι λέει, αν γιατί ποιος πρόσωπο.
Όταν έδειξε τα πρόσωπα, δεν έδειχνες σιλουέτες ή πίσω από κάτι σκιές. Το εξάρτησε πάρα πολύ που έδειξε τα πρόσωπα. Ήταν πολύ συγκινητικό που έδειξε τα πρόσωπα.
Thank you. They agree all. I'm working there for the last 4 years, and just before 6 months I start filming. So we are, let's say, we are welcome and acceptable by the community. So we have this privilege that usually you cannot find in the squats. I mean, the people hide. Yes, she's before you, and then you, and then the girl, and then. Okay, third in the line.
Do you see this interdependent community as like a speculative future where all of Greece could possibly be like this in the future?
Don't know, because anyway, it's a multi-culti community. There's a lot of different nationalities, first. Second, I think you can survive in a small group like this, but it's difficult general as society. There's experiment. I grew up like this. When I was born in Corfu Island, because the people also was poor, that was the way that the people were survived. For example, I had tomatoes, I exchanged it with potatoes. When we had to select the olive fields, all the village work together, first in my field, and then we go to the second field, to the third field, you know. It's something that I know. It works, but it's a very difficult to work in a consuming society, you know? Because if you want to buy a Porsche, you cannot live like this. You live with the basic things. Yes.
I think it's very valuable that you show the bonds of community, and not just community as in like the Greek community, but also the bonds of like a community just being a single family that is able to connect with the people around them, because the crisis and displacement are also always represented in terms of like suffering or like isolation. So to show them together is something that's, I think people really need to understand that there's people who want to help actively, like, in like even like the smallest ways that can help.
Yeah.
You want to comment? No.
Yes.
I wanted to say that it watches kind of like a narrative short film, especially given some of your editing choices where you put the voiceover of another person over images of a separate family, which I think, this is just a comment, that emphasizes that sense of interconnectedness between the people that you filmed. I liked it.
The guy that he was, he described the situation. I decided to describe the situation with two examples. Both are political refugees. The Palestinian couple left from Gaza Strip because the guy was computer engineer, and Hamas asked him to work for them. He was denied. Then he was tortured for 40 days. They left him in coma in Al-Shifa hospital, and when he came back, he returned, he took his wife and left Gaza immediately by tunnel in the north. They passed by tunnel in a tunnel in Egypt, and then they fly to Istanbul, and then they came to Greece. They left 3 children back in Gaza Strip, and now they get born one more in Greece. Now they're in Germany. They left Greece. The second guy is the guy who saw the second episode I projected before. He's a political activist from Turkey. He has spent 12 years in the prison, accused as a terrorist. He was tortured. He has been tortured very hard with electroshock and all these Guantanamo-style tortures. And he had participated more than 20 hunger strikes, more than 40 days each. So his body has been separated of his mind. If you talk with him, you will understand it. If you see my first episode, you will understand it. It will be in the next month. Yes.
I also really enjoyed the little girl having ice cream because, you know, everyone deserves to indulge. And some people treat refugees, especially, that they only need like basic things. But and there's this narrative in America that like poor people shouldn't have iPhones or whatever. And so I really like that little girl was able to enjoy ice cream.
Thank you. I will tell the history about the couple. It's Iranian couple. Iranian couple, yes. The husband has a big advertising company, and the guards of the revolution, they ask him for a reclama, for a postering in Tehran. So one of his employees, he did a big mistake. They asked him to put the Revolutionary Guard picture, and the guy found an Israeli soldier's picture, and he glowed it. He was published it. After that, his life was totally destroyed. So now he's a political refugee in Greece.
Yes. Sorry, I feel like I'm commenting too much, but just to piggyback off of that, I think the image of the girl also kind of represents what could be lost if we don't look after each other, and I found that also really helpful.
Thank you, Adrian.
Okay, I think it's,
I spend all your time, I think. I hope to enjoy it. Yes, yes. No, no, I have one more question. I don't stop.
Can you follow me back on Instagram?
Yes, if you... Nikos Pilos is my name.
Yeah.
All right.
I got you.
All right. Yes, I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, all. Thank you for your patience. I know that I torture you too all this time, but I hope that you enjoy it. I enjoy very much our conversation, and I'm very happy that I meet you.
We are all humbled. Honored. Thank you very much. You can understand why I told you that he's one of the most important.
It's the Greek word fakelaki.
They're one of the most important figures in our world from every point of view. Extremely talented, but also extremely political, astute, aware of what is happening in the world. And of course, amazingly beautiful pictures and videos in it is unbelievable horror that they describe.
Thank you very much.
I mean, this is
I appreciate
both
it.
of them.
It's okay.
And you know, because Olga and I and other people, but we have been really working on the refugee crisis a lot. We do this for many years. We have seen everything really that has been published on the refugee crisis. I can tell you pictures like Nikos Pilos you don't really see, videos you don't see, things that are so raw at the same time, so horrifying, like the funeral of the bodies when they see the funeral, but at the same time so beautiful in their humanity. So
Thank you.
we are very very happy to have you. Thank you very much. We can go up all together and have a little food and continue talking a little bit.
Okay.
A little. Yes.